Hello, this is Mr. Cook, and this video is for lesson 3-4, example 3. Write an equation of the line through each pair of points in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. But that's not where I'm going to start. The steps for these problems include step 1, which is to find the slope. Step 2 will be to write an equation in point slope form. And then step 3 will be to convert that point slope form into slope intercept form, which means we're going to solve for y. Okay, now that we know what we have to do, let's go ahead and get started. First, for A, first thing I need to do, find the slope. Let me move this out of the way here. So I'm going to follow these steps for each of these problems. So for A, I have to find the slope of my equation, or my 2 points. Now remember, slope formula is the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. Now the y coordinate is the second number in each ordered pair. Slope, if you remember, in our equations is m. On top, I'm going to subtract the y's. So I'm going to take my second y coordinate, which is 0. And you make sure you get the order that you choose these numbers correct. Minus, it's always minus. And the y coordinate from the first point is 9. So 0 minus 9 on top. On bottom, my x coordinate from the second point, which is negative 2, minus, again, it's always minus 4. And now simplify. 0 minus 9 is negative 9. And on bottom, negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. I can simplify that fraction. I have two negatives which cancel out to a positive. But 9 and 6 are both divisible by 3. So I can reduce my top and bottom by dividing both of them by 3. My simplified fraction is 3 over 2. So that's my slope for A. Now, my second step is to write an equation in point slope form. Actually, well, if you're observant, what you should do is you should choose the point that looks like it's the easiest to deal with. Always, I'm looking at my 2 points here that I'm given. This point looks like it's probably the easiest to deal with because it has a 0 in it. So when I write my point slope form, I'm going to use the slope that I just found, which is 3, 2, and I'm going to use these points, negative 2 and 0, to write my equation. So if you remember point slope form, it is in parentheses y minus, in this case I'm using the second point, so I'm going to say y sub 2 equals the slope times x minus, and again I have to use the same point, so that's x sub 2. So all I have to do is fill in a number here, a number here, and a number here. So this is just putting numbers in the right spot. So it's just practice, practice, practice. So my equation in point slope form is y minus my y sub 2 is 0. And you'll see why 0 makes this easy, or easier. My slope is 3/2, 3 over 2. And then in parentheses, x minus -2 Okay. Now I can simplify that. My third step is to solve for y. So I would start out simplifying that. Y minus 0 is just y. That's why I chose the one that had the 0. That makes it very easy. It's one less step to deal with. And then I'm going to simplify inside these parentheses first. I've got two negatives right next to each other, which turn to a positive. So this would be 3/2 times, in parentheses, x plus 2. And now all I have to do is use distributive property to multiply 3/2 times x and 3/2 times 2, and I will have simplified this all the way. So this is y equals 3/2 times x is just 3/2 x plus, now 2 times 3/2 is 3. And if you don't believe me, take your calculator, type in 3 divided by 2 for 3/2 times 2, hit equals, and you will get 3. And this is my equation in slope-intercept form. Y equals 3/2 x plus 3. So my slope is 3/2, and my y-intercept is 3. Okay, now let's go on to question B. Again, I want to start out by finding the slope. Take my y's on top, so 3, that's the second coordinate in each ordered pair. Remember, this is always minus -7 on the top, and then in the denominator, -1, and again, always minus -3. Lots of negatives here. Okay, just remember, if you have two signs next to each other, two negatives next to each other, it makes a positive. So on the top, I end up with 3 plus 7. On bottom, -1 plus 3. Simplify that, and I'll have my slope. 3 plus 7 is 10. And -1 plus 3 is positive 2. And I can simplify that one more time. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So there's my slope. On to step 2. For step 2, I have to write an equation in point slope form. So looking at these original 2 points here, I'm talking about these 2 points here, one doesn't look any easier than the other. However, And it doesn't matter which one you choose, you will get the same answer as long as you do your math correctly. If I have to choose one, which I do, what looks to be the easiest point to use would be this one right here, -1, 3. The numbers are easier, and there's only one negative to deal with. So anytime I get an opportunity to use a 0, I use it, and anytime I get an opportunity to use fewer negatives, I'm going to take that opportunity as well. So I'm going to use the point I highlighted, -1, 3, and my slope of 5 to write my equation. In parentheses, y minus my x or my y coordinate, which is 3, equals my slope, which is 5, times x minus, remember that's always minus, and now I have a -1. Okay, remember, two negatives next to each other change to a positive. So now all I have to do is simplify this, and I end up with y minus 3 equals, I'm going to use distributive property to get rid of these parentheses, 5 times x, and then 5 times 1 is 5. So just to clarify there, when you use distributive property, 5 has to be multiplied times both of these terms inside parentheses. So when I do 5 times x, I get 5x, and I do 5 times 1, that's where the 5 came from. Now, I haven't quite solved for y. I still have to deal with this -3 right here. Well, to get rid of that and solve for y, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 on both sides. And that's going to get me an answer solved for y, which is y equals 5x plus 8. Now I have an equation in slope-intercept form.